also we talk about the applications. We're not going to go into technicals like the LLMs because I think that's just too technical, and we have so many now. So now the emphasis is on how to use AI to basically be productive and also to increase, or let's say to improve your P&L. So before we dive into that, this is just going to be more of, I would say, a conversational presentation, or let's say, if you have any questions, you can just raise your hands and then you can ask, and then it's going to be more of a dialogue rather than just telling people on what is there or what to do. So you can feel free to ask any questions. And then because I'm coming from a very solid team that actually teaches people on how to use AI and also how to structure their data services to be able to see benefits in AI, feel free to ask questions in that area as well. If you are just curious or you just have personal questions. Okay, now I think I can just dive straight into the presentation. And then if you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hands and ask. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so like I said, this presentation is just going to talk about the single agent, multi-agent, what it entails. And then we're just going to go through some few examples of how we can implement it in Ghana in the various industries. And then I just created a practical one, which is going to be a voice agent. I did two for Ghana Water and DVLA that we can just see how it works, and also how the knowledge base or the profile is done, so that it can be replicated and then done in other areas as well. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about the single agent, the multi-agent, and also agents in the world at Google, but it's supposed to be at Ghana. I just forgot to change it. Okay, now what are the building blocks? What are the building blocks for agents? What are the components? What constitutes an agent? A lot of people hear the word agent, and then it's very confusing, especially if you're not in that area or you are not in that space, because people just have different definitions of agents, and then some also overlap the definition of Gen AI to agents, and then also sometimes just software application, and then they classify it as an agent. But all these are different platforms, and but although they are related, but they are all different. Now I want to talk about agents. We have the backseat driver and then also we have the driver. What is the backseat driver? It's basically the brain of the agent. That's the LLM behind the agent. So that's the foundational models. They are the backseat drivers. And then the agents are the LLMs that can understand language and also take actions. So basically, agents are specific. They can handle tasks. They can you can let them do certain things at any time or a specific time period. And also they can produce things instead of you just telling it, okay, context in terms of maybe producing context or producing images. That's just working with Gen AI. These are two different things. Now the definitions. So a generative AI model is basically it's a powerful text image code generator. It records your prompts and then creates content. That is Gen AI. Now I want to talk about the AI agent. What is that? That's the driver. That's actually what is doing the heavy lifting. I mean, that's actually what is doing the work. The Gen AI does the heavy lifting behind, and then the AI will do the actual work. So the agent uses the Gen AI model as its brain to understand, plan, and also then take actions. So the agent will take the actions, but it's going to use the Gen AI as the brain. And if you're just using Gen AI to create text, that's not an agent. You are just using Gen AI. These are just two different definitions. So in other words, the Gen AI is the backseat driver, and then the Gen AI and then the AI agent is actually the driver moving things forward. Now let's look at the anatomy, just a structure. Normally, this is just a very simplified form. Normally it has four structures, or let's say four sections. We have the profile. What are you going to tell the Gen AI to do? What is the profile? What is the knowledge, the brain? What is the data that is going to refer to understand what you're trying to do and also take action accordingly? And then also the actions, how is it going to take it? How is it connected to the various platforms that is going to show that action or is going to show that results? And then we have the memory. How is the memory structured? Because sometimes we have a lot of hallucination. We have a lot of problems with Gen AI because of memory and how the memory is structured. So that is being fixed, or that is being done because we have different forms of memory structure that is addressing this particular area. Now I want to talk about the profiling. That's the DNA. It turns a generic AI into a specialist. It is going to answer the question, who are you? So that's the profiling is answering the question, who are you? And I'll talk about the knowledge brain. The brain is going to answer the question, what do you know? So you have to feed it the right data so that you can at least get the right output. So data is very important, especially when it comes to AI applications and also AI or Gen AI agents. Data is really, really critical. Like they say, garbage in, garbage out. If you feed it garbage, don't expect any miracle. And then you have your actions. What can you do? So basically, this is what is going to tell it what it has to do. That's the output. For example, let's say you want to update your calendar with, let's say, meetings. Then you have to tell it, okay, now look into the calendar, maybe connected through an API, look into the calendar, and then maybe set up that meeting. So that's the specific output that you really want it to do. And then we have the memory aspect. What do you remember? So this is where you feed it with the right data so that the Gen AI or the AI agent can think and then give you the best possible answer. Like I said, now we have a lot of memory crisis. We have a lot of hallucination. We have issues, especially when it's becoming the agent is growing or becoming bigger, and that's how we move or we transition into the multi-agent. What is causing the memory challenges? Too much info, too little relevance. That's a big issue. There's just too much data out there. But how do you tell which is relevant to what you're doing? To forget or not to forget. Unlike human beings, we can easily understand, we can easily synthesize, we can easily filter out, relevance and then irrelevance. But with the Gen AI, or let's say the AI agent, this is still in progress. It's continuously being reformed, or let's say refined, to be able to differentiate between this type of data. Then we have the Groundhog Day effect. The AI keeps making the same mistake despite correction. How do we actually use feedback? So basically, you're supposed to have the feedback loop that goes back into, let's say it's like a learning process. When something happens, the system is supposed to go back or take that result back and then relearn or adjust accordingly. So that's the feedback process. So that's also another issue when it comes to memory. Now with memories, right, we have three types. We have the semantic memory. This is your personal encyclopedia, stores facts, like simple facts. Sky is blue. Your name is this. Just straightforward, simple facts. And we have the episodic memory. That's like your diary. It holds personal experiences and events. So this goes a little bit into details on what actually, let's say what you do, what you plan to do, or what is in the. Basically, it just goes more into details instead of just facts. And we have the procedural memory. Your how-to guide remembers how to perform tasks. So basically, the procedural memory it's more like part of the feedback loop. It will do something, it's going to save it and remember how to do it, and then it goes back again. So that's a whole loop. So that's what is really going to make that AI agent better or not. Now, the feedback loop that I just mentioned, what is it? This is how an agent learns. It's not just about storing data, but refining its core instructions, procedural memory, based on experiences. This loop turns a static agent into one that evolves with every interaction. This is really critical because how does it learn? It's just like a kid. You have to continuously instill a behavior in that kid by a learning process. So it's a feedback loop. It has to continue to learn. It has to continue to adapt. It has to continue to grow, just like, let's say, a kid growing. So as it grows, it learns, it adjusts, and also it refines its results. Now, we transition to the multi-agent systems? Because as startup gets bigger and also AI agents gets bigger, these problems also explodes. So now how do we address that? We can address these problems by just, breaking these AI agents into simple, straightforward single AI agents that can work together as multi-agents. So now what are the major differences between the AI agent and also the agentic AI, the we? So the AI agent is called a me because it's single. An AI agent is a single entity with a clear profile, its own memory, and a set of tools. It's designed to complete a specific task autonomously. Think of it as a single specialized employee. Now, what is the we? Agentic AI refers to a system of multiple agents working together. The challenge shifts from building an agent to orchestrating a society of agents, managing their collaboration and communication to solve complex problems. So now we are moving from the me to the we. Now, how do we solve a particular problem? How do we work together to solve a particular problem using different agents? So that's where the agentic AI comes in, or the multi-agent. Some people call it multi-agent, but the lingo now is agentic AI. That's what most people use. Now, why do we go multi-agent? Why use one massive do-it-all agent that fails when you can use a team of small specialized agents that succeed? So basically, the multi-agent is just there to make things easier and also more precise. A big, huge agent, like I said, the problems with Gen AI and also memory and everything, as the AI agent gets bigger, these issues also grow or just grows bigger as well. Now, to mitigate these issues or to mitigate the issues of with Gen AI, is the best option is to use the multi-agents, where each agent has a specific task, and then these tasks are linked to other agents, and then they work together for you to get the output or the outcome that you are looking for. So, multi-agent is basically a coordinated team of masters. Each agent is an expert at one thing, passing the work to the next specialist. So it's more like, having a company with different employees specialized in this particular area. They work together to achieve the strategic goal of that company or whatever you're doing. So look at it as something like that. You are building a company. So now you have different employees specialized at different areas. You have the marketing, we have, let's say, finance, and then we have, let's say, the tech or the technology aspect as well. Now, all these guys come together for the company to achieve its goal, whether it's selling, whether it's providing services, whatever it's doing. So these are all the various departments that work together to achieve the goal. So this is like a simple example. So we have a marketing, let's say we want to do a marketing campaign, right? We have the researcher agent, that's the competitive analysis. We have the designer agent that creates the collateral. And then we have the campaign manager, schedules, posts, and tracks ads. And then the observer evaluates all these responses, ensuring quality. So it all depends. This is just an example, but it all depends on how you structure your multi-agent systems to suit your particular workload or what you are looking to achieve. Now let's look at the orchestration of the whole thing. Who is the boss? Now let's look at the hierarchy. The manager agent assigns tasks to worker agents, good for clear top-down problems. So this is the first is the first let's say the first orchestration. We have about three. I think we have more as things grow. Things keep changing quickly. So the first one is, you having a manager that assigns different tasks to various agents, and then now the manager will take this results and then implement it or use it according to what the aim or the goal is. Then we have the sequential. These are tax flow from one agent to another, like an assembly line. Output of A is input of B or input for B. And then we have the broadcast. This is just when one agent or a human broadcast a request and other agents bid or contribute like a town hall. So these are like different. One is just top down, two is a graph sequential, and then three is just broadcasted there, and then people will bid or agents will bid to solve that particular problem. Now, how does this agent talk? What is the communication? We have the shared memory. That's the whiteboard. All agents read, write to a central scratch pad, simple and fast for small teams. So it all depends on your workload. Small teams, medium, and bigger teams. So as you get bigger, then you have to adjust accordingly. Direct messaging. This is when agents basically send messages directly to each other. And then also it's good for complex and private negotiation. Now we have the knowledge graph, the corporate wiki, a structured, permanent, and queryable memory, the most advanced method. So as you go higher into, let's say, enterprises, then you go into those kind of knowledge graph, those kind of things, because these are huge corporate, these are bigger data sets and also bigger problems. So it all depends on what you're doing, the size, and also the output that you're looking for. Now let's look at some few examples in Ghana that we can implement AI agents, and also after that I will try to share one or two, just depend on if time permits, and then we can just see some of the applications that we can use AI agents for. Now let's look at the healthcare system. We all know Ghana's healthcare system is a big mess. It's a mess not because we don't have competent people. It's a mess because we don't have structured processes. We don't have structured data. We don't have anything structured to make the process seamless or very simple for these professionals. We have the know-how, but we have the connections to make the know-how operate effectively. I think that's where the problem is. That's where we need to focus to make it simple. Because we have situations where people go to hospitals, and then we don't even know what is going on in the hospital. We don't even know, who is doing what and what is going on. So all this is just because of the data structure that we have, or the processing is very fragmented and very disconnected. So it's difficult for you to understand what is going on in different departments, and also there's just too much bottleneck. Normally with agents, AI, whether software platforms, some of the problems to solve is try to reduce or try to eliminate these bottlenecks. So these are some of the things that we have to do. So if you look at, let's say, the healthcare, this is just an example that I just used AI to create. We have the triage agent, symptoms check via WhatsApp, or let's say, it routes agency. So someone is having a problem, they can easily give symptoms, or give let's say to just give symptoms to this agent. This agent will analyze these symptoms and then understand its urgency. Is it something urgent, or is it something that it can be routed to some quick let's say maybe something quick, or maybe routed to someone to just prescribe you the right medicine, or do you really need to see a doctor? So now we have the scheduling agent too. That's what books appointments. It does, it goes to the hospital system. It understands what is available, which beds, how many beds are available, what is going on, and it can book these appointments, because we always have this bed issue. There's no bed here, there's no bed there. But for some reason, there are beds in other hospitals, but we just focus on certain few hospitals, and everyone is trying to go there, and other hospitals have empty beds. But we don't really have any system to know what is going on in other places. So especially when you talk about a government hospital, we don't have any system to understand what's going on in the various hospitals. So it's all about, we just throw a stone and just pray that it hits something. And then we have the claims agent, especially now that we have the NHA and National Health Insurance functioning. You know, how do we streamline processing? Because a lot of paperwork, you're going to burden these professionals filling paperwork. Why do you have to go through all filling, spend hours or spend so much time filling paperwork, whilst the health professional can use this time productively looking, or let's say checking on other patients? So these are some of the things that we can use the various agents to do, and then also build a multi-agent just to understand this process. It can be a pilot project. Let's say we just start with one of our biggest or medium-sized regional hospitals. Then we just build from there, and then we can expand and then grow. We have about 2.4 million active health insurance subscribers. This is huge. And just imagine how processing all this paperwork, will be. So this is something that, we have to look into to see how we can use AI, or we can use different forms of agents to help to mitigate the issues in our health sector. Now let's do revenue. A lot of revenue in Ghana is lost because we can't really access these revenue streams. We can use AI to help, especially I would say small to very small, because Ghana, we have really very small business. It's not, you can't even really call it small. We have this roadside businesses, and then also we have the medium, and then also the small in terms of established small employee-based businesses. Now, how do we access, especially the small to the very small business people or the businesses? We can use AI, whether it's through an app, whether it's through this, and also through registration, whether it's through a certification, for you to sell in the roadside. Let's say you have to have a particular license, so now through that license, you're in the system. We know that Kojumenu sells coconut on this road or on this street. And then we have people that check to make sure your licenses are in order or are up to date. Then because you're in the system, now you can go to the GRA app and then report that, okay, this is how much I made and this is how much I'm paying taxes. And then all this can be done through whichever agent or through the app, how it's structured. This is just how it's structured. And then so we can access, even if it's just small here and there, it is estimated that, the Ghana loses about $4.2 billion in uncollected revenue. Just imagine, even if you can be able to collect just 25 to 30% of this amount, just see how it's going to help the economy, or how it's going to help the economy to be more stable, and then also fund government projects. So these are some of the things that we are supposed to look at. These are not complex, especially with current abilities, also current availability of software, AI, and everything. These are not difficult things that we can chase. But the question is the willpower there? Is the willpower to chase it, or is the willpower to implement there? But if it's there, I think, Ghana has a lot of professionals. They have a lot of people with the know-how. These people can easily build a system. It's not always that we are supposed to look outside to help solve our problems. Some of our problems are very local. The local people understand it better. They know how to navigate it. You bring all this, how many times do you bring all these foreign entities in and it fails? It's different. Problems of Ghana is different from problems of the US, problems of Europe. Ghana is a developing country. Our problems are a little bit different. So I think we should try to use our local resources to be able to solve these problems and understand this better. Now let's go at our education sector too. How can we use Gen AI to improve this education sector? We all know teaching and teachers, we are short of teachers, and then the teaching quality is really low. We have about one teacher for every 34 students on the average. Especially when we talk about students in deprived regions, the North part, the Savannah, have no access to private tutors. And then also the passing rate is really low. How do we do it? Especially with the penetration of mobile phones and also internet in Ghana. How are we going to leverage this penetration to be able to help some of these students? Because now a lot of teachings is not only done in classroom. Most of us now you can have a whole degree, a whole PhD. This thing you can basically have a whole PhD course or program. I mean, not the actual certification, but a program using available tools. You can understand whatever a PhD. Even now, the big schools they have all their courses, all their programs online. It's just available. It's for free. So now, how do we leverage all this available, let's say, knowledge to be able to help our local or our people pass? We can basically create a knowledge base, with our courses, our programs, our textbook, have a digital form. And then we can create an agent that can easily understand what the problem of that particular student is based on the maybe the questions, the failure or let's say the pass rate. And then the agent can focus on the area where the student lacks in terms of where the student lacks, so that it can pinpoint the help on to that specific student or the particular student to help that student learn, and then be very to learn, and also be let's say to improve in terms of the pass rate, and also to be very productive, because now a lot of education is moving from just read memory based to more of practical based. So we can use some of these tools to be able to teach the coming generation on all this, on how to use all these things. So this is also a very huge opportunity that I think Ghana should also be able to look at and also implement it. We have about 45% BC pass rate improvement if you're able to just do this, because now, thanks to the internet, the penetration is, thanks to, let's say, some of these telcos that we have in Ghana, we have internet penetration almost everywhere in Ghana. So we have to leverage this and then see how we can use that. So, like I said, the knowledge base, we have the GES levels, we have the wide past questions, we have all this available. All this data is there. This is not something that we are supposed to go look for, but we just have to organize it. We just have to structure it, and then we have to feed it to the right systems. And that's it. So these are some of the things that we can use that for in terms of the education sector. And then the agri sector, this is huge. This is just an example but in the agricultural sector, especially as we transition from I'll say subsistence farming or small scale farming to large scale farming, is critical to really understand how these things work. Because as you transition to especially mechanized large scale farming, you have to understand a lot of things. It's not just about planting and waiting for God to do his thing. No, you have to be also proactive yourself. You have to understand the weather. You have to understand, the probabilities of everything happening. We have this already. We have this knowledge base, especially in our schools and in our universities. So we just have to collect them, centralize them, clean them up, and then make them available to especially these large scale farmers and medium to large scale farmers. I'm focused on medium to large scale because with the small scale, let's be real, these are mom and pops using hoes and cutlasses. But no, let's focus on the people who really want to build large scale, medium to large scale farms, mechanized, because that's where everything is moving. You cannot, when it comes to subsistence farming, it's very hard to scale. Your power is very limited. Individual powers are limited. But mechanized farming, you're using machines, so the scaling is there. So how do we do that? We have the weather data. We have the crop data, which type of crops, when to plant, how to plant, what are the yield, what are the possible yield outcome. So now farmers can plan on the yield outcome. They can even pre-sell their crops to generate revenue even before the crops are harvested. And then there's trust in the system, because now buyers can prepay for crops, they can prepay for services that will be rendered in the future, and that drives a lot of things in the economy. That makes it's improved trust, and it makes money move around, because as this one is prepaying, that's revenue to another person, and that revenue is revenue to another supplier. That will be the fertilizer that is. So it's a cascading effect. So I think these are some of the things that we can use AI for. I mean, the applications are endless. It's a question of, do we have the willpower to implement and to see the changes in our society? Yeah, this is it. So this is I didn't really go technical. I'm more into the application part of AI and AI agents, how it's used. That's where my specialty lies. I normally talk about how all this data structure and everything with companies, enterprises, verticals, different industries, on how to use AI to improve their P&L. Thank you so much for attending. And then now we can just have questions and answers, and then I'll demonstrate one of I'm going to demonstrate one of the AI agents that I just created for Ghana Water. And then you can just see the process and also the prompts and also the knowledge base that that I used. And then I'll have a volunteer from I'll say I have a volunteer from the audience to act as a customer to make a call and then interact with this call. But before we do that, I didn't record a Ghanaian voice because I didn't have time to use a Ghanaian voice. So it's going to use, I'll say, a foreign voice, but it's very clear. But it's very simple to just record. For example, I can just record my voice, and then my voice will be used as the AI voice. So I can just record any Ghanaian typical answering so that it's easier for them to understand. It's easier for people to comprehend what the AI is saying. But this is just very cosmetic, especially now you can do this in some few minutes. You don't even need a ton of time or knowledge. Okay, I'll stop here if you have any questions before I show the AI assistant that was created for this presentation. No questions?
Okay, so mine is not necessarily a question, it's just a comment about the use cases that you just spoke about. I was particularly happy about the use cases because, yes, you mentioned when you were presenting on the use cases, some of the challenges that we are experiencing, right, in Ghana. And I just want to throw light or highlight the fact that we actually have very good innovations coming from Ghana, especially from our researchers and our students, right? You'll be amazed the innovations some of these students come up with day in, day out. But for me, I think that for Ghana, our main issue is with policy integration and support. And I'm very glad that GAIN organized for, so GAIN has, GAIN announced an AI hackathon, right? And we have a lot of people signing up for this hackathon. And when you review some of the proposed works, they are actually mind-blowing. But the issue of policy, that is where I find the gap, right? And I'm very happy that for the award scheme that GAIN is organizing is bringing together innovators, researchers, and most importantly, policy makers, right? So that we will be able to bridge this gap. They would know the essence of how these inventions are supposed to create the change that they are supposed to in our country and help adopt them in our system. Yeah, so that was just a comment, not necessarily a question, but a comment with regards to the innovation and some of the problems that we are facing as Ghanaians. So anyone with a question? Okay, I see Benjamin Echo's hand up. So Benjamin, you can unmute and then ask your question.
Thank you. So, my question is with regards to picking ideas, picking projects, mm, basically selecting a problem you want to work on. So, I feel like right now with AI, everybody is just trying to find as many problems as it can solve, and sometimes it can be very very exhausting trying to pick what AI can work with. So, and you presented a lot of great um, projects that I think are very good. So I want to know, in your experience, what are the things that we young developers should look out for when we are picking projects that AI can solve?
Okay, I mean that's a good question. But first, let me make a comment about what Francisca just said. Let me tell you a story. Before I make a comment, let me tell you a story. So I used to work for this Chinese company, and they had a conference here in the US. And I was the only black person that was working that Chinese company, by the way. So my boss, that's the president. He's almost my age, but his dad is owns one of the biggest industrial conglomerate. He's a multi-billionaire conglomerate in China. So we are cool, and he said, "Oh, I should just go see what goes on there." So when I went there, they had this government um, policymakers. They came, had a conference, and then they offered anyone who is doing research in a particular area or has solutions in a particular area to come out and then join them and then come to China. They will be fully funded to be able to develop that particular research or to develop that solution. And then, China, people complain about, China is stealing, and then, oh, they are doing that. They are not stealing. They have a lot of people with the know-how. And then the government and the policymakers, they found a way to incentivize them to solve local problems. And once the local problems are solved, this can be, I would say, amplified to solve other world problems, because in most cases the local problems are the problems of other countries as well. Now, to come back to what Francisca said, you can have as many good or as many solutions, good options, whatever it is, without the policy or government support to implement or to build. It's just an academic exercise, in my opinion, from my experience. It becomes just an academic exercise. We have all these bright people, like you said, in game trying to build solutions for local problems. Yet we don't see any policy, we don't see anything from the government. There's no governmental support. Some of these problems that we're trying to solve in this country should be given to some of you guys, some of these solutions that you guys are trying to build. And when a solution is determined or is seen to be viable, that solution should be funded and then expanded. But unfortunately, we don't have that. So I think that is the problem when you talk about like the outside, how that is successful compared to how Ghana we have problems building. And then now to come back to Benjamin, your question. Ghana has so many problems. We can't list them. But we have to come together as a society to pick one or two industries or one or two problems that we collectively want to solve or to reduce the problem or to just solve it. You understand? Let's focus. We cannot focus our energy in so many areas. We're just going to be jack of all trades and then master of none. So now, what are some of the things that we have? The biggest problem we have in Ghana, I'll say one of the biggest, our healthcare. How do we solve that? Let's focus on that. Agriculture. How do we do that? And then let's say another industry. So let's say we just pick like three industries. Again, I was looking at the competition. I'll be very happy to see what is going on in the competition and then be very involved if Francisca, if that's possible. I just want to see some of these solutions, some of the implementation, and also how scalable it is. The reason why I want to see is because that's what I do. So I just want to see how scalable it is. So now we have to focus on this industry or these areas. Then we use our local know-how. We use our local options. For example, I was really surprised when Ministry of Education had to go bring a foreign company to come do. I don't really remember, but it's something about building educational something with AI or something like that. I was really surprised. So this is like something that in other countries they're going to use local resources to build that system, local know-how. And as we do that, we learn quickly, we iterate, and then we build quickly. But anytime you bring in foreign, our local industry cannot learn. You can have the best solution, but without the support, the solution is just on paper. It's of no use to anybody if you have the best solution in the world and just on paper. So I think what Francisca said is we have to see how we can get governmental involvement in local in the local industry trying to solve the local problems. So I think this is where we have to bridge the gap so that we can understand which industries, what we need to solve, and then have a national I'll say a national outlook to solve that particular problem, whether it's healthcare, agriculture, manufacturing. So we just have to understand this and have a broader collective outlook. I think this is just my opinion. And then from our observation, living in Ghana, living in Europe, and also living in the States for a long time, understanding how these systems work, I think these are just some of the things that we have to focus on, and then just build from there. I hope it helps, Benjamin.
Yes, yes, it does.
All right, I perfectly agree, Suleiman. Do you have any more questions? Okay, we don't have. Okay, one hand is up. Nana, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question. Nana, are you here? If you can't talk where you are, you can put your question in the chat. Are you okay? All right, go ahead. Okay, Nana, you can put your question in the chat. Okay, I'll read it out to Suleiman. All right, thank you.
Okay, as we wait for questions, I can just go ahead and show you just a simplified agent that is just an assistant that I built for this particular presentation. I just want to show you the knowledge base and then also the prompting, and then just to show you how this was built.
Sure, that would be great.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, do you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Why is it so small? Okay. So this is just an agent that I just built for Ghana Water. So this is the prompting. So this is answering the question, who are you? So this is going to tell the Gen AI or the LLM what is going to be. So who are you? So the first thing is what the agent identity and role. You have to define it, what it is. So in this case, I'll call it the agent Abena. You're a voice agent for Ghana Water. Just a little. I'm not going to read everything. And then I'll tell it what it's supposed to do, not what's supposed to, but basically define its role in terms of what it has to be. It's answer the question of who you are. So then you have to give it the guidelines, you know. So these are the persona guidelines that it has to follow, because it's a machine. No matter how great GenAI is or the LM is, it's still a machine. You have to give it boundaries. You have to, because if you just let it free, it's going to be free, and then you're going to see problems. So you have to give it boundaries. So you have the guidelines. We have the opening greetings, you know, what you're supposed to say at the opening when someone calls. Um, so these are just I'm defining the persona. And then we have the intent, the logic. So the persona, we have the billing and payment. We have the water outage reports. We have leak and pipe burst reports. We have services connection request, meter issues, general inquiries, escalating. What happens, you know, when you want to escalate, or what happens, you know, when you have to move to the next step. Then we have the policies, you know. This is just based on what policies that is out there. And then we have the language. When someone speaks a different language, you know, how to respond. So now we have a lot of AI agents in Ghana that can speak Twi, Ewe, like different languages. So you can easily incorporate this. When someone speaks a different language, it's going to respond in the same language. But today it's just English. I don't have the Twi and all that stuff. And then we have the closing call, what to say at closing, and then you know, what to tell the caller or to give the caller in terms of closing. And then here you have to give it limits. Like I said, it's still a machine. You know, you have to give it limits, you know. So what not to share? You cannot share customer account details. You cannot do something, you cannot promise it. So this gives it boundaries on what not to do. So this is just the persona. So now you divide let me see. Okay. Now you define the persona of the agent. So this is the profile. And now let's look at the knowledge based. Wait. Yeah. So now let's look at the knowledge base. Can you guys? Yeah, I'm using one screen. So let me know if you see it, Francisca.
Yeah, it's very visible.
Yeah. So now this is the knowledge base. So this goes into details on everything that the agent can reference to in terms of answering questions. You know, building. I would say whether it's, sorry about that, the case out. Whether it's you know, putting I would say, for example, if someone reports something, right, they have to record it somewhere. They have to record it whether in a table form, they have to put it in databases, they have to do everything. So basically this is the knowledge. So this is the knowledge base that goes deep into details, what the agent can do, how it can interact, what it can say, how it can think. So this is basically the brain. So now we're going to feed our LLM with this knowledge base, that's the brain, to be able to be the persona that I showed earlier. So with the knowledge base, this is everything about Ghana Water. You know, even when it was incorporated, the legal name, the address. It's basically everything about Ghana Water that you can find out there. And then also this can be, you know, based on I just use what is online or the information that is available. So let's assume that Ghana Water really want to use this. So we go through and then we're going to update certain things, you know, because now I think now they have a lot of things that have changed. So now you talk about the history of the company. You give it the AI that brain or that information, the contact directory. We have all the contact directories that you have that, you know, Ghana Water has. We have the regional offices. So basically the AI is going to use this information. So if someone calls from the Ashanti region, from the northern region, from the upper east, upper west, it knows what to do, and it knows on or how to route that particular issue. we talk about the tariffs, the billing. We go into details, how are the billing, what's the structure, the various forms, the blocks, lifeline block, upper block, whatever it is. We have the commercial tariffs, we have the individual, well, commercial and non-commercial, right? Yeah. So basically this gives the AI everything it needs to learn from, or it needs to so this is basically the brain. Not the brain, but I would say the brain is the Gen AI, but this is the information that has to go into the brain for the brain to function properly. So if you look at it, this is more details than the prompting, the profile. The profile just talks about what it has to be, its limits, and what it has to do. And this question answers how it has to do that. So how does it do that? You feed it all the information on what it has to do. When you talk about problems in the water sector, whether it's someone is reporting pipe burst, pressure, water is brown, water is green, water is blue, everything that possibly that can happen, we have it here. So this is the knowledge base. And yeah, so basically this is what feeds some of the questions, sample questions that can come up, frequently asked questions, so now the system can understand that if someone asks any question around this, it knows quickly on how to answer, what to pick out, which questions to ask, and how to basically respond. So this is the knowledge base for the prompt, the GW, the Ghana Water Assistant that was created. And then now let's look at how it works. Can I have a volunteer to call? Oh, you just want me to do it? Let me just do it. Just be a volunteer.
All right, I can volunteer.
Okay, so I'm going to click run test, and then you're going to talk to it like you're a caller, a Ghanaian caller.
Good day. Thank you for calling Ghana Water Company Limited. My name is Abena, your virtual assistant. How may I help you today?
There is water scarcity in my area. I live at Tafo, Kumasi.
I'm here to help. You can ask me about your bill, report a water leak or outage, apply for a new connection.
Wait, so because I'm using the same laptop and it's the microphone, it's not picking up from the microphone.
Okay.
Wait, so let me just do it and see if it's going to pick up, because the microphone is the Microsoft Teams is using the microphone. Hold on, let me see if so let me just do it here. Hold on, let me just start again.
Good day. Thank you for calling Ghana Water Company Limited. My name is Abena, your virtual assistant. How may I help you today?
Hi, Abina. My name is Sulayman. I have issues with my billing, and I wanted to see if you can help me.
Hello, Solomon. I can certainly help you with your billing inquiries. Could you please provide me with your account number or meter number? I'll also need to confirm your name and the registered address for verification.
I don't have that now, but there's a pipe burst in my area, and then I wanted to call Ghana Water to come fix it.
Thank you for letting me know, Solomon. I can help you report this pipe burst. Could you please provide me with the exact location of the burst? For example, the region, town, street name, and any nearby landmarks. Also, could you describe the severity of the burst? Is it a minor drip, a moderate leak, or a major pipe burst?
I don't have a pipe burst now, but I just wanted to find out, how do I create a new connection in my house?
I can help you with that, Solomon. To apply for a new water connection, you'll need to visit your nearest GWCL district office. Please bring your property documents and fill out the application form there. For low-income community applicants, there's a subsidized connection program available. The estimated processing time is typically between 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the location and available infrastructure.
Okay, thank you so much, Abena. And then I'll call back if I have other issues.
You're welcome, Solomon. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
No, thank you.
Thank you for calling Ghana Water Company Limited. We value your custom. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, so were you guys able to hear the system interacting with me?
Yes, we were.
Yeah,
We heard
so this is
everything.
just, so basically I didn't want to go into details, but if you give it your location, the landmark, is going to basically write everything down and then send the correct information to the maintenance guys, telling them that, hey, we have let's say for example, we have a pipe burst at Kaswa, near the police station, next to Cocoyam Street. It's going to give specific information to the maintenance guys so they know exactly what's going on. And also it can tell you how severe the burst is. Is it like a complete pipe burst, a leak, just a small leakage or anything? And also basically if you see water, your water is brown, whatever. So basically any problem that has to do with Ghana water, when you call the system is able to synthesize the problem. It's able to give you the, if it's billing issues, it's able to give you the right information on your bill, on your meter reading, when it was read. So basically, this is something that, I just to show you how so this is just a single agent. Now, if let's say I want to implement multi-agent, now this single agent, for example, when it writes the maintenance report to the maintenance guys, they can be an agent with the maintenance guys that can synthesize this information further to break it down to get to the right maintenance guy or to see the availability of which maintenance guy is the closest. So let's say Kwame lives in Kaswa. He's a Ghana water maintenance guy. And then Baba lives in, let's say, Cantonments. It's not going to send the maintenance issue to Baba because it knows Baba is too far from Kaswa to go check or to go look at. It's going to send that information to Kwame, who lives in Kaswa. So that will be a second agent that can feed or that can be fed this information to be able to break it down for like the maintenance. So even within this particular or within this showcase, you can see how you can build different agents to solve, to actually break these issues down, to solve these problems all the way to the granular level. So these are very simple. These are very simple applications that we can, even as gain, and then government support, people can start using this, at least because it brings in credibility, brings in at least some funding for some of these researchers that are building these solutions, and then they can build on that. They can improve. They can expand. They can be more competitive. So I think this is what I have for today. But if there's more time, we can just have a dialogue session for some few minutes. What's the time? Just questions and answers. If not, I think this is what I have for today. And also feel free to reach me if you have any questions or you need help with anything or in terms of solutioning or building anything, or you just have questions about anything. Just feel free to reach me. I can be reached on LinkedIn. That'll be the easiest way to reach me. And then just feel free if you have any questions. I think that's it, Francisca. If there's nothing, we can just have a quick maybe dialogue. If nothing, I think that's it from me.
All right, thank you so much, Suleiman. It's really been an insightful session. I think there is a hand up. Nana? Nana, would you want to talk now?
Hello, am I
Yes,
audible?
we can hear you. Yes, go ahead, Nana.
Sorry, I was having issues with my mic. Thank you very much for the presentation. I really enjoyed it. With regards to some of the use cases that were mentioned, I would like to ask, what do you think our readiness as a country is in terms of implementing some of these technologies? what do you think our maturity levels are in the various sectors that was discussed? What do you think our readiness is in terms of implementing some of these technologies, basically? Thank you.
So the question, thank you for that question. But I think the answer to that question more is how ready is the government? Because looking at it, I was following GAIN for a while, looking at some of the things that people are doing, you guys are doing. The knowledge is there, the know-how is there, the solution is there, but there's no support. So when we talk about Ghana being ready, I think is the government ready to implement the policies to support the local enterprise in terms of and then in terms of these solutions, and also the solutions we have to be specific. I've seen some solutions that people are trying to put out there, and first you have to, before you can start running, you have to learn how to crawl. It's like people want to run, but we don't even know how to crawl. The backbone of all this solutioning is the infrastructure and data. Without the infrastructure and data, and that's where the government comes in to support. Without the infrastructure and data, the solutioning is great, but very limited, or it lacks adequate help. Because it's like you can have the best solution, but without the data or without the understanding or without the structure, the support, it's like building a house with a very weak foundation. You can have the most beautiful house, but if the foundation is really weak, it's just a white elephant. So we have to identify whether it's 1, 2, or 3 industries that we want to industrialize or want to modernize. Then based on that, we can utilize, especially now that we have a research institute, we have some of our schools, especially, the graduate level schools, the theses, all these level schools, then we can start using their brain and resources to actually solve these problems. A lot of the solutions that I have seen that are solved both in Europe and US, a lot of them originate from the institutions, whether it's a research institute, whether it's a university, it originates from there. But the difference is once they see a potential, we have either the government policy or private support. They get the support to excuse me, to expand on that particular solution, on that particular build. But unfortunately, we don't really have that in Ghana. I had the opportunity to go to school in Ghana a little bit, so at least I understand the system there. So that's the problem. So it's not about we being ready; it's about the willingness to act. Do we have the willpower to act? Do we have the willpower to build? So I think the question more is the willpower, not the readiness. People are ready. Like I said, Francisco said, people are showing very, very nice solutions for the hackathon. These guys are ready and hungry to build something. But the question is, do they have the support to build on that hunger, to build something out of nothing? So you see, so it's not about being ready. I think it's more about is the structure there, is the support there, is the support system there, do we have the push, do we have the willpower to implement these things? Because we can have so many we have a lot of bright people in Ghana building, developing, but there's no help. So I think that helps to answer the question. It's not about the readiness, it's about the support system. Because people are ready. In my opinion, I think people are really ready to do something to solve Ghanaian issues or to solve the issues in Ghana, but we don't have the support.
Thank you very much. And one last follow-up question. Okay, so since now we know that the problem is support and infrastructure, what do you think is the best way to go about making sure we bring the government to our side, or how we see things, to be able to enact some of these policies or structures?
Yeah, so it's difficult for you to bring the government to your side. It's about the government coming to you, or the government coming to you, because it's our government, or our policies are not really structured that way. They don't come to people for solutioning. It's like people have to go chase them. So it's I think we are improving. We are still improving. We are still growing as a nation. We are still trying to find our footing on the world stage. So I think with the leaders, let's say the leaders in game, I saw recently that St. George commissioned the AI plan for Ghana. Great, initiative, but it's what the structure for implementation. What is the plan? What is the 5-year plan? What is the 10-year plan? What is the 15-year plan? We are really good at putting things on paper beautifully. We can have the most beautiful things on paper, but there's no plan behind it. So if Ghana wants to move to that, I saw that, okay, this industry, that industry, but we have to have a plan to implement it. We have to have a plan to build. And you have to build with local knowledge. You have to build with local resources. We keep bringing in people from different places to build things that people have gone to school for in Ghana to specialize in. So I think I don't know how the problem is. I don't know which way, but I think the government should be more interested in building, because if the citizens are very interested in solving and building, and the government is very disinterested, we wouldn't go far. So it has to be the initiatives from the government side. Like I said, when I went to the conference that was organized by this government, the Chinese, one of the delegates from the Chinese government organized that. They took the initiative to pull people in to solve their problems. So the government has to take that initiative to pull people in to solve that problem, because I think that's my opinion. That's how I see it. You trying to bring the government in is a little bit more difficult than the government trying to bring you in.
All right. So to add to what Suleiman has already said, recently, a Kenyan University staff led some Ghanaian team to win the Global Robotics Challenge. We are not talking about local robotics challenge, global robotics challenge. After the win, we all jubilated, celebrated on social media, made huge publicity out of it. Ghana has won. They are putting Ghana on the map again and all of that. Now they are back in the country and there's no form of engagement as to how to, get to them, for them to implement real solutions to solve pertinent problems, right, in our country. And that is why I would go back to the effort GAIN is putting into making sure that we bring together people in the ecosystem, innovators, researchers, and policymakers. So if you are here and you are an innovator, a researcher, or you hope to create the impact that you've always wanted, it is a very good opportunity for you to register for the Ghana AI Innovation Challenge being organized by GAIN, right? Take advantage of it because it is going to give you the platform. Now, for the second question that you asked, Nana, it's very difficult for you to get these policymakers. So you take advantage of some of these events, right? Because during these events, we invite some of these policymakers to come and witness for themselves, because most of the times they do not know what is happening in universities. They do not know what individual innovators are doing in their own small corners. But this is a platform where they come and they see for themselves some of the innovations that are being developed by our own people. And one thing with GAIN is that GAIN is stressing on the use of local data sets to be able to tell our own local stories, right? So if you are here and you've always wanted to create that societal impact, take advantage of that opportunity. It is going to give you the platform to meet some of these policymakers, so that if your work is picked or is ranked amongst the best, you could get support and potential employment, right, from some of these events. So that is one thing. That is something I just wanted to add to what Suleiman said. I saw another hand up. Yes, Dr. Henry Nunu Mensah. Please go ahead with.
Yes, yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Champon. I think I've been following the conversation. It's quite impressive. When Suleiman started his demo, then something came up. I was like, wow, the person is speaking all right, but speaking like a foreigner. So you are giving local data, but local data, but the accent is foreign. You get it. So at least it's a problem. That's we also have to look at, yes, and see how best
Yeah, Harry.
those, yes.
Yeah. So before I show the demo, right? I made a comment that, so now, for example, I can record my own voice or get a Ghanaian typical voice to switch that. It's going to take some few, I would say not few, but it's going to take some few hours to do that. So now I would say the system or the things to do that is already there. So for example, I will say maybe read, I can give you a script, you read with your voice. You after reading, then I feed it into the AI. Then the AI will change the voice of let's say Abena to exactly your voice is there. So now we have the option to really do that. The learning distance, the learning curve has been bridged. So we don't really have that issue now. And then also for local languages too, I think I saw a couple of AI initiatives in Ghana that could speak P, Ewe, and a couple of local languages. That's also there, you know. So with the voice, I don't really see it as an issue at all now, because you can easily clone local voices and then let the AI speak just like the local person. So I think that is not a big issue at all.
Yeah. So basically, I was just bringing that up to highlight the need for more, like, as in data, like
Oh, yeah,
open
yeah.
source data stuff and all that. Yeah. So it wasn't to say that it was a problem to the work itself that has been done, but it's just like a call to action that,
Oh,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
some
And
of
then,
these things are things that we have to put together and yes, share with the community out there. Yes. And
oh, yeah,
shout
yeah, yeah.
outs to, like, those that you mentioned. You have the Ghana NLP with I think Dr. Moore or Prof Moore and Paul Azure working on this Kaya app and all that. Yes. So they are doing great things, but at least once we have more people also coming into that space, things become very pervasive, it becomes common, and at least.
Yeah, just to add to what you just said, that's why I mentioned, we have to have a very good foundation. The data, like you said, the data is really important. It's still very fragmented. Like you said, Kaya AI is working on something. I actually met Prazuri myself, so he's a friend of a friend. So I met him. We talked about certain things. So it's very fragmented still. People are working on different things piece by piece, like pieces all over the place. So we have to find a way to see if it can be centralized, that people will have access to all these things. So just to add to your point, this is one of the want to talk about like the infrastructure and the data aspect of building, especially AI systems. We have to find a way to have this data, centralized, clean, and very trustworthy, so that we can build on that. Because I mean, like, without data, good data, I don't think we can move quickly or we can move forward.
Thank you very much. That's good.
All right. Do we have any more questions or contributions? All right. I think we don't have any for now. And so I would want to say a very big thank you to Sulayman Usman for making time with us today. It's been an insightful session, and we are really grateful for everything you've taught us today. And to all the participants, we are very, very grateful that you took some time off your schedule to participate in this session. And I believe that you have learned as much as you can. The video would also be made available on our YouTube channel and also on our website. So feel free to watch at your own convenience again. All right, I think we would end here, and I'll see you participants in the next dialogue series. Oh, I think before we close, there is a hand. I apologize. All right, Faisal, I'll give you the opportunity.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead with your question.
I want to believe it's still good afternoon. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes,
still good
it is.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a really quick one. It's about the game. Like, how do one officially joins game? Or there's nothing like that.
Oh,
Officially, how do one join game?
you can officially join Gain. We are on LinkedIn, we are on X, and we also have our website. We have our YouTube channel. Because I have your contact, I'll send you the links directly. But on LinkedIn, you can just type Ghana Artificial Intelligence Research Network, and then you get to
I actually
follow us.
follow you guys.
Pardon me.
I already follow you guys.
Yes. So if you follow
Yeah.
us, every activity that we are organizing, we put that on our LinkedIn, so you can have access. Okay, and you
All right.
can
Okay.
also register. You can also register on our website,
Okay.
GhanaAI.org. GhanaAI.org. That is the website.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. So on that
Uh,
note, okay. I think Dr. Nunu Mensah wants to say something. So.
Yes, yes, yes. I just wanted to say that I don't know where you are. If you are in Ghana and at any of the universities, we have campus coordinators who are coordinating activities there. Can speak to any of them. But if you are not in the country and you still want to be actively involved in activities, you could reach out to there's Alidu on the call. Yes, Alidu. Yeah, so
Yeah, Ali is here.
yes, yes, yes. Alido is on the call. So I think yes, you could reach out to him, and he would have some discussions with you on the side. Yes. So that's that. He is in charge of our training and programs. So he can as in brief you on any steps that have to be taken. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can reach out to
Thank
me
you,
on
bro.
LinkedIn. Yeah, it's Ali
Sure.
Double
Sure.
Bakari on LinkedIn. Mm.
All right.
Okay, so on that note, I think we would bring the meeting to an end. Thank you once again, Suleiman, for making time with us today. All right, see you all next month. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Au revoir, mes souhaits.